Hello and welcome to the Design Rescue Show, where we take a behind-the-scenes look at the unique journeys of creative professionals, and we learn about the choices they've made that have shaped their career paths. Well, hello everybody, and thank you for joining us today. I am your host, David Block, and today we're joined by Lauren Gonzalez, co-founder and creative director at Principium and founder of For the Creatives YouTube channel. Her work spans from freelance graphic design to leading a creative branding agency. And so, Lauren, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, David. I'm really excited and happy to pay forward any knowledge I can provide.
Absolutely. I appreciate that.
Yes.
And so now, of course, this show is basically a behind the scenes kind of tour of your life, your career journey. And so I like to start at the very beginning, typically going back to education. And so I noticed you started at Art Center, or not started, but you went to Art Center and Cal Arts.
Yes.
Both schools have always been in my bucket list. I just have to tell you that. I love both schools. I go to Art Center every year. I take my students on a tour once a year, and I just love walking around and just, being around that hub of creativity. It's a fantastic school. And so, when you think back to your college days, I'm curious if you could share some experiences that sort of shaped your professional path and the direction that you've taken.
Totally. So it was very interesting with living in Los Angeles. I had the opportunity to be in the middle of, between Cal Arts, which was about 40 minutes away, and then there was Pasadena, which was about 25 minutes, depending on traffic. So I was in the middle of both. And as a high school student, my mom found out about Art Center. There was a high school program that they have called Saturday High. I think they still have it. I haven't checked it out recently, but it's amazing. And they have, so you could go take classes there and kind of get a flavor for what it's like to go to college there. So I did that from the age of, I believe it was 13 or 14 up through graduating high school. But at that point, my focus was really on, I wanted to be an animator, character animation. So everything I was doing wasn't even graphic design related. It was all drawing, learning about drawing, mastering the figure drawing, going to zoos and drawing animals in classes. I had some incredible teachers that really helped to guide me. And so that was an amazing point for the beginning. And then I also got into the summer program for Cal Arts, which was CISA. And it's an amazing summer program for anyone in high school that I highly recommend. And I did that for animation, and I was just immersing myself. So then I worked with an instructor I actually took a gap year, and I was going to Pasadena City College, and I put together my portfolio for Cal Arts there because I graduated high school a few years earlier. So I had this time, and I was able to get into Cal Arts for character animation. And while I was there, even though I ended up in design, and I will make this as brief as possible, but it's in graphic design, was something I never thought I would get to. But once I started to get my hands wet into the world of animation, I realized that I was not really meant for drawing every cell and doing that very tedious and extremely admirable work that animators do. So I started looking at other options, and I saw Art Center. I'd already known about it. And I transferred there for the second year, and I went into illustration and graphic design. So, but what I will say, the takeaways in terms of the learning from every teacher from the beginning in Art Center high school days to CISA to Cal Arts itself, is the creativity is its own path, and everybody has to find their own style. And that was something that the teachers really, really pushed. And I loved that because it wasn't just about copying the other people. It was about exploring your own self and your own style that is innate to you.
So fantastic. Okay, so now reflecting on your early professional projects, whether while you're still in school or shortly after after you graduate, I'm curious if you could discuss one of your first major projects that was branding for e-commerce and helped you form and formulate your direction for your career, if that made sense.
Sure, absolutely. So e-commerce actually came after my in-house days. So before I went around and I was soaking up as much information I could, even from people I was writing to people at Pixar. I was just trying to explore what the career options were. Now that I knew I didn't want to be an animator specifically, I was looking at production design and graphic design and everything. So what really led me to graphic design, I guess, was an opportunity and getting into some of these early projects. I'm going to just put a little plug in. My first graphic design project was when I was 7. I submitted a Valentine's Day card to the LA Times, and that got published. That was my
Oh,
first probably ever graphic design work. Um, but later
that's
on, I I think it was looking in the early days, the projects I can really think of are the ones that was working with when I was working in house as a publishing in the publishing house, working in I loved layout. That was something that was just fantastic to me about graphic design itself. Was it wasn't just about the illustration, it was about the whole picture. So it was the typography and how the composition went together and all those really key details that I learned as a illustrator and as a hand-drawn artist was so could carry over, but in a bigger picture. So I think when I was working on some magazine publications that I had to actually illustrate, that was probably one of the most incredibly fun projects because I got to use all the skills that I had and I could have it and it was tangible. I could feel it. It wasn't just digital. I could feel the action and see the product in my hands.
fantastic. So now, talking about your if when you transitioned to your entrepreneurship, when you opened up Principium, okay,
Yes.
I'm curious about that. And first of all, how long has that been? Has Principium been in business? And am I saying that correctly?
Yes, no, you are. I'm very
Okay.
impressed. Most people see principium, which opens the door to a lot of questions and a conversation about why we even named it that. But it's actually it's Latin, so it is principium, and it means the origin or the foundation of your brand. And my husband is from Mexico, so he was looking for inspiration on ideas of names and came up with that one, which we agreed together, which was a fun thing, and it leads to these kind of background stories. So
Right.
yes. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. Okay. And so, could you talk about let me ask it this way. What was one of the first significant hurdles that you encountered with Principium? Maybe a project like I noticed you've got a bunch in there. I don't know which came first, but Climb On, Zule Kitchen. Were there any of those that gave you a sort of required a sort of a strategic pivot that or a fresh approach, a new way of approaching design?
Yeah, great question. So it I guess the first of all, the transition, it was hard. I was, working when you're in-house, you have work constantly coming to you and there's never there's always you need more time. So when I left it because I wanted to start a family and I didn't really enjoy that 9 to 5 lifestyle, I wanted to, and that was after working 6 years in house. So then 8 years ago is when I left. And it was the surprise and the shock that clients just don't come to me. That was really a big, I know that sounds stupid, but it was a big wake up call for me that it couldn't just magically appear and everyone, I put up something on the internet. I wasn't really familiar even with how websites worked and social media. I was very lost on it. So I guess then as things went on, I was able to figure out how to market myself. I learned a lot and was able to grow to what it is today, which I'm very thankful for. But the early lessons I think was getting those projects, working with the client one on one, as opposed to an in-house job where you're used to the type of projects. Every client becomes individual and it becomes this new exciting experience. And that was something that Zule Kitchen was it was actually one of my early projects. And that was in their early days. So it was really cool to rebrand them at that time. They were about a year or two into business and they wanted to rebrand because they wanted to go big. And now they've gone huge and they're one of the top 100 on Amazon selling. So
Wow.
that was an extreme, it was almost like I was learning with them and growing with them as a business myself, which was a fun experience.
Oh, outstanding. Now, I'm curious if your creative process has changed since that time working with Zule Kitchen.
Yeah.
Do you follow the same routine, or is it have things changed for you?
I have gotten much more knowledge myself as a person, as a marketer, because really what I came to realize is when I was working in house, it was always the struggle of I'm supposed to be kind of this marketing manager, creative director type of person, but I was always bombarded with so much design work. And I had designers working with me, but it was always very design heavy, and it was hard for me to really ever focus on the marketing. So when I feel that as I started to work with more and more clients, really saw the purpose of design as a marketing tool as opposed to just this disconnected visual element that is how I used to approach things. So and as I got more clients, as I worked with more and I saw the results that my designs could help to achieve, it became this really cool purpose and exciting, exhilarating event or adventure, really, to go and actually help a client and help a business take what they want and what their innate goals were and direction and help guide them with my creativity. So it's definitely evolved and gotten much better. My processes have gotten extremely more detailed, and I'm thankful for those early clients that were willing to work with me while I was learning things as a new freelance designer.
Right. Great. Great.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Excellent. So as we move on to another topic, I'd like to
Yeah.
talk about For the Creatives now. So your YouTube channel, For the Creatives, it covers first of all, it's what a great channel. You've got a lot of really great content in there. I have shared a number of your videos with my assignments to supplement my lectures and to give students more meat to understand the topics that we talk about. So thank you for that.
Oh, that's great to hear. I'm really happy that that's been for you. Good.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you cover a broad range of topics, from technical design tutorials, freelance business advice, career insights. I'm curious, how do you decide the content areas to focus on next? And I'm curious how do you find out what interests your audience? I guess that's the bulk of my question. How do you find out what they want to see or what they need to see?
So at the beginning, I started that channel because I got so excited that I was able to attract so many clients in my business that I never thought was possible. So I got really excited about all this marketing tips. And that was my purpose for even starting For the Creatives, was to help freelance designers or those looking to go freelance or people wanting to have that freedom of working for themselves. And so that's why I started it. And started playing around with keywords, and I found this one about learn graphic design by yourself, as I found this keyword in it. And then it led to me making a video explaining just the process that I saw really could help people do that. I didn't expect this video to really go as viral as it has. And that then my channel kind of took a different direction. So it's been an interesting thing now because I wanted to really focus on the freelance side, but then I was getting so many requests for design, how to do branding, how to do packaging, how to learn design fundamentals. So I started to kind of balance, try and do both of them, and it splits the audience a bit. So and YouTube always favors those design tutorials more than freelance. That's why I then started my podcast, because I felt I really wanted to still have that in-depth talking about freelance. So I guess that's just the way figuring out the topics is. You got to listen to what do people watch more? What does the algorithm push more?
If you're enjoying this video, please take a moment to hit that like button, leave a comment below, and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss our future videos. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. So now I'm curious, for your channel, do you have a plan for the future of the channel, or do you play it by ear? Are you going week by week? or do you have a future plan for what you want to do with For the Creatives?
Yeah, well, my plan is really I want to give back to the design world and educate in ways that I can. And through those that maybe don't have the facilities or the awesome magnet programs or the programs like you have and what you're doing for high school students, and those areas that don't have those where they need some sort of online help. Because that's where I found a lot of people want to transition into the design world and they don't have the necessarily the resources to go to a big college or an art school, but they don't have anything local to help them. So what I really kind of started to transition is there's those people who really are interested to go freelance and get that guidance. So I have a whole coaching program that goes in depth into that, which I help people go through and get clients and set up the business and all those tricky things. And I do that weekly coaching, which I love so much. And then I have the new designers who are looking to learn the new skills. And I think that the YouTube channel, I really want to keep going with that route and being able to obviously reach both sides of the coin. But I'm in the middle of creating a whole brand identity course, which I'm really excited about. It was supposed to be a short project, and it turned into this enormous one. And that's for those that are also not able to take these maybe big college programs, but still I want them to have those resources.
Excellent. So,
Yeah.
a new brand identity course. Can you talk a little bit about that? Do you have any kind of a curriculum already put together for that? I'm curious what you're going to be covering.
Yeah, so it's something that I found when I was looking just on the online course space in Coursera, Udemy, these kind of places too, which is not where I'm going to be having it, but I was looking and I see a lot of them do kind of the branding side, but I haven't seen strategy, the identity, and really getting into logo design and presentation to clients, the whole kind of process together. And I feel that a lot of times people go into logo design without being design thinkers and really knowing what's the purpose of that. How does it inform? How does the identity inform? How does the strategy inform everything? While it's not a full strategy course, it gets into why do you need to know the the audience of your ideal client or your client you're working with? Why do you need to understand the positioning? What are all these important steps before you even touch the design? And then it takes them through the mood board process, getting the ideation, there's going to be a little bit on Illustrator and logo creation, and then the presentation and putting it all together into a guide. So it's basically walks them through that whole process and gives them those tools. I also just interviewed an attorney, a trademark attorney on my podcast, which I'm super excited about. And I'm going to have her do a bonus module that's going to talk about those points and what do logo designers need to think with, what's their responsibility, what's the client's responsibility, which gets very gray sometimes. And it's a question I get often about that subject.
I actually have in my classes. I try to drill that creative process in, and every single project we have a sign-off sheet. They have to get my signature for each step of the way. So by the end of the first year, it's ingrained in what they do and who they are. I think that's when I look at logo courses like yours, and I've seen others as well. That I think for me, the most important part of it is that creative process and getting that routine drilled in.
Yeah.
One of the most important processes, I should say, or parts of learning logo design. And I know this went very quickly, but we have come actually to the last question. So, on the topic of advice for aspiring designers, for people that are interested in getting into the creative field. So, with so many opportunities, so many options that are out there to become a successful designer, I would like to know what your opinion is about education. So,
Yeah.
is it important to go get a formal education, or is self-teaching kind of a method that you would that you would value, that you would suggest? And what advice would you give individuals at that crossroads? Would you say go look into colleges, or stick to the self-teaching, or a mix of the two?
Yeah, this is a great question. And for me, what I have seen is those that have the discipline and have the ability to be extremely driven in a day, they don't get distracted, they can set their own schedule and they will stick to that. I think you have a lot more ability and options to choose, and the self-education route could very well work for you. Maybe it's a combination of going to community college classes or taking night classes. I think like Art Center has night classes and such like that while you're developing your skills, or taking online programs. There is a lot of variations of that that you could do. What I find though is those that are maybe not so able to be so disciplined, it's a hard skill in itself. So it's okay if you're not that way. Those types should definitely seek into a full-time college program where you have those deadlines from teachers, and the teachers are you get to learn and be there with them. There's nothing that replaces that. I mean, as you experience, David, and with working with you, I'm sure, and your students would agree that it's amazing to have that hands-on teaching experience, and as a student as well. So it's something that you can't overlook as the ultimate. But the self-education, I think that nowadays, if you want to go freelance route, it also requires a lot of discipline in your schedule, in your time, in your persistence level. It doesn't happen overnight. It is there's a runway there. So going that way, if you want to do a combination of freelance and self-education, you just have to have a lot of discipline. If you were to decide to go into the college route, it gives you a lot of connections and network opportunities also, which is amazing, because sometimes teachers know people or can get you connections with jobs right off the bat. There's also where you know what to put together in the portfolio. So it's a different game. And I think that one thing that really hindered me in college was having to take extra classes that I didn't understand the purpose of them. They were completely disrelated. I knew I would never use that information again. So that was something that I feel, if that's not for you and you're going to just like not do those other classes, then maybe finding some sort of a trade school type of a environment, or like those night classes and online programs and such. So I hope I'm not confusing in the way that I'm saying it. I just think that those are the different categories.
Wow, that was perfectly clear. And that pretty much takes us right to the end of the program. Once again, Lauren, thank you so much for being a part of this show. I appreciate and I value your time greatly, and I thank you for being here.
Oh, it's been such a pleasure to speak with you, David. Thank you very much for having me, and I really admire what you're doing, and thank you for continuing to do that.